All right, so now we're going to get into adding files to your Moodle page. And we'll go into, let's say, Unit 1 to start this. Now, you got to make sure your editing is turned on this whole time. That's true in the previous video as well. So if your editing's off, then you don't have the ability to add things. But there's a bunch of different ways to add items to a Moodle homepage. And the first one that I'm going to show you is by far the easiest. So I have two monitors set up here. I'm just going to grab something that I want to use. Okay, so here's something that some of you may have seen before, but it can be in any file type. So here is an image that I have on my computer, and it's in as a PDF, and I would like to put that PDF on this page. The easiest way to do it is just to drag it and drop it. Now the PDF is on there. For instance, let's say I want to also do a Word document, and I don't have, my typical teaching Word documents. I'm sure they're buried somewhere. I haven't used them in a while. But let's say here we go. So I will get a document from one of these. All right. So here is a Word document. If I want to use that Word document, I just drag and drop it right there. And now it's going to go in as a Word document. That's the easiest way to get files onto your home screen or onto any screen. And you can do a lot of files in a hurry like this, where it's just dragging and dropping. You can edit the name of them. Make sure you hit enter when you're done. But that's your easiest way to get files onto a Moodle page. Now, you can also do, you can add an activity and you can add a file. Now, when you add a file, you get to choose the name. So, example file. If you want the description, so sometimes you want students to do something with a file, you may throw it in the description and then put the description on the home page as well. You don't have to by any means. And then here you have the option of dragging and dropping the file just like we did to right there. Or if you want to go find the file, you can go find it from here. Now, you can find it from your Google Drive. So if I haven't logged into my Google Drive yet. But once you log into your Google Drive, now your Google Drive shows up right here. And let's say I want to, let's print out one to use. We can go to, yeah, this one's fine. So let's say I want to use this one. Now that file is going to be there. We're going to have to delete that one. And we'll save and return to course. All right. So that's the drag and drop onto the home screen. That's also the file finder and the file uploader that allows you to do that. We showed you how to get something from Google Drive. There's also kind of a neat way to use Google Drive. So I laughed at people when they told me this originally, but I really got to the point where I started doing this. And it's amazing how much difference it made for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, and we'll just open up a new window. And I'll go to my Google Drive here. And then we can actually use the document that we're getting these videos from. So if I open up the document, if I grab this little lock right here, I can drop it in right there. And I get to name it. So So now I was working on a Google document. I just drag and dropped it here. Now you got to make sure your share settings are such that it's going to be usable. Everything I did in class, I made public to anyone on the web. I mean, there was nothing I was doing on class that I didn't feel that anybody would be able to look at. Especially if it's out of context, they're not, I mean, whatever. Now, the nice part about this, once you get all these set up, so this one's set up as it's a file, but it's a URL file. Rather than me going into my Google Drive to edit something, when I was working on something with students, I could click right here. It would open the screen. I was able to edit it, and students were able to see that edit as I was doing it. So if I did like a simulation, like that Earth rotation simulation, if I wanted to add something to it and students had already gotten into it, I was able to add in real time. Now, if you don't know about the copy trick, I'll show you that one here right now. So let's go ahead and edit this. We got to make our screen a little bit bigger. See where right there it says edit? Instead of saying edit, I'm going to write copy. Now the file's still there, but notice what happens when you click on this link. It's going to make a copy for each student. So if you want students, let's say you're going to like digitize a worksheet, or you want them to answer some questions or submit something to you, you can do this. You can make this link, and then you can have them upload a link to you. So, I mean, it's essentially what Google Classroom does. It allows you to organize student submissions within Moodle based on how they submit it to you. So we'll get into that one in a minute with assignments, different video. But that's how you can get individual copies sent out to anybody that clicks on this link. Now, once the student clicks on this, if you go in and edit the original document, they're not going to get the edit, but it allows them to create a space where they can work, and then they can submit that work to you through an assignment. The only other thing that you may want to look at is a restriction. So here in the settings for any of these, you can restrict the access. And when you restrict access, we don't necessarily have it set up to use that right now because we're not far enough along. But earlier when we had our edit screen in this screen right here, when we said, do we want to do completion tracking? If we now click yes, now every activity you can add completion tracking for. So you could say for the activity before it, you're going to be marked complete once conditions are met, and you have to view it. Now, I'm not going to make this one available until that one's marked complete. So I'm going to restrict my access, and I'm going to say you can't get into this until this is marked complete. This button right here tells you if it's going to be visible or invisible. So right now, it says it's going to be grayed out. Students are going to see this activity, and this one is gray out, and it's going to say you can't get this until you open this one. But if you change that eyeball to have a cross through it, oh, we're in the wrong one. Oh, yeah. I think we're in the right one, sorry. I was just in the wrong menu. Now it's going to be invisible unless students complete this. So the interesting part about this, you can have a page where there's only one link and it's the first one. Once they click on it and do it, then the next link or the next group of links or the next group of activities shows up. So students aren't allowed to move on until they've completed specific things. This gets into that differentiation. Rather than saying, you can't move on until you've done this or until you get this score, Here we can automate this so that students don't have access to things. And they would say, like, why don't I have a grade for this assignment? Well, that assignment isn't available to you unless you've read this article, and you never read the article. So rather than students skipping through and not doing what you're asking them to do, you can set up these restriction settings so that they have specific paths they have to take. That pretty much does it for files, and it actually gets a little bit into restrictions and activity completion.